Hello, hello.
Welcome to Pondering Pandas, a podcast where we ponder about the confusing modern world and try to make sense of it all. We are your host. My name is Jayden.
My name is Ryan. Hello, everyone.
Hey, hello. I think I need a drink for today's topic.
It's a really heavy one for me as well. I'm not sure I'm prepared enough, so let's dig in.
Hold on, what are you drinking?
Yeah, I have a whiskey with me. Oh, actually, bourbon.
Oh,
Yeah.
whiskey. Hold on, whiskey or bourbon?
Are they not the same?
I don't know. I clearly don't know my alcohol.
Yeah, it should be like a bourbon, American whiskey. Yeah.
I have this canned gin and tonic, so I'm very classy, I guess. No, wait, you're much more classy than I am. Mine's like a cocktail.
No, like gin tonic is my first cocktail I had in my life.
That is a terrible first cocktail to have.
Really, I kind of like it. I feel like it's really fresh. Like have the hint of the strong alcohol. It's good. Yeah.
Interesting. I just think gin and tonic has a very distinct taste.
Hmm.
It kind of reminds me a little bit of like medication sometimes. It has that bittery
Yeah, yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
aftertaste into it, right? So yeah, when I try to introduce people to cocktails, it should be something more yummy, like I guess more vodka related or
Yeah, or
like good
more
vodka quality.
sweeter ones. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So today's topic, we're talking about toxic relationships or just toxic people in general. Can you
Toxic.
tell me what can you tell me what is considered a toxic relationship?
Um, I mean, it really depends on your personal experiences, right? I do come across many of different definitions, but I I kind of how do I put it? After experiencing several toxic relationships, I just feel like now my personal rule of thumb is that if during that relationship you feel like you are not feeling happy, you're not feeling your energy is being filled, you're feeling you're always consuming yourself in terms of how to coping with the other party or getting along with the other party, that's pretty toxic because it consumes more of your mental energy. You spend more time thinking about how to deal with this person or to like have a better relationship, and essentially energy is your life. That's my point. It's like if you spend more energy, that's not healthy. Usually if a relationship requires you to put more efforts to win people back, or you become a people pleaser and trying to have a better relationship, that was
Me,
natural.
I'm a people pleaser.
Me too, we're both people pleasers.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's my definition. What about yours, Jaden?
For me, I think there's a range of what toxic relationships or toxic people would be, right? I think everyone is capable of being toxic
Hmm, hmm.
uh,
I agree.
in a certain degree. And how do I say this? I think the most easily to be toxic towards are the people that you love the most a little bit
Oh,
more. It's a little bit easier to do that
exactly.
because you kind of
Hmm.
take it for granted of because they're always going to come back like it's relationship blood family friends sometimes, but you just need to learn how to kind of put on boundaries and work on that. And I think especially some of the signs that I can now sort of identify a little bit, I think more with friends and
Hmm.
acquaintances and professional settings, I'm more able to identify something that is unhealthy for me. I wouldn't call it toxic, but I would just call it unhealthy for me.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, would be, relatively putting things out of boundaries and out of my personal comfort of how
Hmm.
my relationship with that person would be. And then I guess within friends, families, it would be relatively similar to like gaslighting, the
Oh yeah.
similar fighting patterns.
Classic.
Yeah, highly reactive, twisting words and stories, being dishonest, and when their words don't meet with their actions. Those are some ranges of what toxic traits could be,
Yeah.
but I think all of these can have a spectrum of what these reactions could be, right? But so, for example, highly reactive, I think among the Asian families is very
Oh my
much
god.
toxic
Yeah.
in this way. Not speaking from experience, but
Sure, from a friend's story, right?
yeah, a friend was asking, and yeah, but like maybe that's just how families are brought up in
Uh-huh.
previous generations.
Mhm.
So that's how they know how to do it, right?
Yeah, yeah,
I think
yeah,
what's
yeah,
the
yeah.
I think the beauty of the current generation of the internet, the technology that's happening, and the vast amount of communication that's available in the world,
Mhm.
the amount of teaching and education that we have towards each other to recognize these signs about what's acceptable and what's not acceptable as
Mhm.
a relationship, whether it's toxic or not toxic or unhealthy or healthy, is to be able to have this conversation of mass communication. And
Yeah,
then that's when a lot of us start to think about these things. Because previous
yeah.
generations, there's like, oh, that's just how things are, and that's just how it is. And that's how my dad or my grandparents or my great great grandparents
Mhm, mhm.
did this type of communication. And here we are, we're still living, we're still thriving, but
Yeah, exactly.
it's I don't know, I mean, we're just kind of, you know,
Yeah.
addressing this issue a little bit differently.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree. First of all, I want to kudos to you being so brave, straightforward
What do you mean?
to the
What do
Asian
you mean?
family dynamic.
I don't
That
think I'm alone though.
yeah, I think it's a very typical area where toxic relationship happens, and I feel like almost all Asians can relate, but it kind of confusing as you mentioned because we feel like, oh my god, that's the generational trauma, right? Passing from the past generations. Then we kind of touch those concepts in the Asian parenting and also in the movie we discuss regarding everything everywhere all at once. That's about the generation trauma
Mhm.
as well. So
Mhm.
it's a very sensitive topic because that's how some people understand the love should be. The love should be like bonding, but at the same time, it's controlling. It requires you to sacrifice and to take care of other people. But I don't necessarily believe that's healthy. I feel like that's a controlling relationship, as you mentioned. We have the gaslighting, triangulations, all those techniques, and try to maintain the control. But yeah, we can be very offensive here because I assume that's how many people perceive love should be, and I'm sorry for that.
I think one thing to highlight though,
Yeah.
just because our parents or Asian families or our loved ones or friends who may have certain characteristics of what we're talking about
Hmm.
toxic. Obviously, it's a range. Let me
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
re-emphasize this, it's a
yeah,
range.
yeah.
But I'm just going to say this that makes sense to me because like those that are putting in the energy to it doesn't matter how they communicate with you, but if they're putting in the energy to try to scold you or try to discipline you
Hmm.
or try to teach you certain lessons, that's coming out of love, right? That's
Yeah,
coming out
yeah.
of care.
Hmm.
And I want you to become a better person.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
if you think about it, for those people who don't care about you, they don't want to give you
Yeah,
feedback, you know?
exactly, exactly.
So we need to be able to recognize the differences between those two things.
Yeah, and I really appreciate you bring this up. I think that's a really important point here. I agree that a toxic relationship doesn't mean it has ill intention in the first place. It could be a relationship lacks boundaries. lacks the mutual respect as the independent person, or it lacks the healthy boundary to treat each other as the individuals instead of a part of a higher collective identity, like the family. Like we can go further to be like the community or even like the nationalism, those things to be.
You and your pondering modes. And
So basically, my point is I do believe many of the families, even though they have toxic relationships, they're coming from like the great intentions. And in the end, all the parties involved are hurting in a way.
yeah. So on the other side of it,
Hmm.
um, it kind of produces a different type of person. So like where me and you, we kind of talked about, we become people pleasers
Hmm.
that attracts these type of toxic people, right?
Hmm.
So I'm 100% guilty of this, being a people pleaser, and I sometimes am too gullible to think the best of people all the time, and they will step all over you
Yeah.
without you even realizing that
Yeah.
you are being
Yeah.
trampled on, because they're able to recognize that this type of people pleaser person have a benefit to them,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and whatever that benefit might be, it could be, I don't know, like a house over their head. It could be so that they're not alone in this world, so that they can maintain control over somebody to keep
Hmm.
them feeling good.
Hmm.
So it's hard to recognize that, but now I'm getting a little bit better at it, to be honest. But I'm still working on it. So
We're all
it's a
working on
gift
that.
that
No
keeps on
worries.
giving.
Yeah.
It's a gift that keeps on. So why do you think that people pleasers attracts toxic relationships, whether
Hmm.
it's professional, love, or like family?
Yeah. I want to echo your point here because people pleaser usually have a weaker personal boundaries and they want to get the external validations. For me, I always seeking the validation from my parents to confirm that I can be independent, I can be successful by myself. And that's definitely a vulnerability in a way because people
Yeah.
can feel like I want to seeking for those validations constantly. I'm willing to become a giver in exchange of that. So that's actually
Yeah.
very aligned with your point here. The toxic partners or toxic people are really good of detecting those signs of if the person can be utilized to provide them with the energy or the power or the pleasing they desired. So they're treating us as a praise and say like, okay, I'm here, I'm providing the love, you may want it, but in exchange you will be more dependent on me. And yeah, it develops to be a controlling relationship in the end.
That sounds like a lot of scheming and a lot of planning and
Yeah. Yeah.
a lot of like chess. You know what I mean? Like, aren't they tired
I
of planning all this and try to like scheme things in their head? Like, when I'm listening to this, I'm tired. So
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. I'm just trying to make life a little bit easier. Just in my perspective, sometimes pleasing the other person
Yeah.
might be a little bit easier if it doesn't affect me
Hmm.
too much. You know what I mean? If it affects me a little bit, if it's inconvenient for me a little bit, fine. Like,
Yeah.
it's not the end of the world. I could live with that type of inconvenience. Then I guess I'm more than happy to do it. And it depends on the person, right?
Yeah.
So if someone is scheming and planning so much, like, aren't they
I,
aren't they tired?
I think that's a great question. I had the similar confusions myself as well. I was like, that's tiring, right? You're trying to control this person and trying to, you know, control him and then harness the energy the person can provide. Basically, you are like a vampire. You're looking for prey that constantly can provide you with the fresh blood. And that's how the relationship looks like. So I was like, that's tiring, right? But
Mm,
to be like a disclaimer here, I'm not an expert, I'm not a psychologist. So please
don't sue
share.
us.
Yeah. Don't sue us. And we are trying to share the personal experiences. So I did some research. And I learned there's a personality disorder. It's called the narcissist personality disorder. So in short, it's called NPD. So basically, if a person have this personality disorder, they will be a very typical toxic person or toxic controller because they are seeking for the energy supplies for their narcissists. It's kind of a
What does
little
that
bit,
mean?
yeah, it's kind of a bit abstract, but put in details, they are constantly looking for the people they can control to provide them with all the resources they can offer, including the time, energy, money. But they were definitely not going to work on your face and say to you. So they use
Is
like
that what they're
those.
gonna say? Can you be my prey?
Yeah, can you be my prey and can you be my victim? No, they're not going to do that. So
They
yeah,
will be
so
sneaky, sneaky, sneaky.
very sneaky because they know they won't get the results if they ask people directly. So they will be very strategical and trying to be like nice in the first place. That's why there's a first phase. It's called love bombing, and especially it's in the loving relationships. It's very effective. It's
Mm,
basically in the first place they're trying to be like, oh my god, you are amazing, I love you so much, I want to give you all my attentions and all my focuses so you can feel like you are special, you are the only one. And it works perfectly with the people pleasers because w- I'm seeking for external validation, I'm seeking for unconditional love, I'm seeking for people
mhm.
can validate my value as a person instead of my externals, whatever. I'm seeking for someone who truly understand me and to provide supports sincerely. And
Mhm.
in the love bombing stage, that's very matching because the love they're providing and the efforts they're making, it's making you feel like you are special, and it's making you feel like that you find some soulmate in that stage. So it
Yep.
doesn't only limit to romantic relationships. You can go extending to like the friendships, extending to even in the career settings. You feel like, oh my god, I'm working with this person, this person is such an amazing supporter to you. So the examples can go on and on.
So when you say love bombing, to me, it sounds very much like in the initial, maybe when they're just with you, or when they're communicating with you, or when they
Hmm.
want something from you, they're gonna love bomb the fuck out of you. They're gonna be like, "Oh my gosh, you're so good. You're XYZ. You're so nice. You're, I don't know, like you do this, this, and this for me. Like I really appreciate it." So
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
they basically say like all these right, correct, sweet things to you
Hmm.
as a people person who seeks these validations, right? And
Yeah,
then when they turn around and if the day is over, if the date is over, if
yeah,
like I don't know, if like after work or something like that, or even if they change jobs, like they are
yeah.
completely a different person to you. Like you don't,
Exactly,
like they
exactly.
pretend like they you don't exist. They're just like the communication is off when you guys aren't together, right?
Yeah,
Like that's what love bombing kind of is
it,
in the grand scheme
exactly.
of things.
Exactly. It's essentially like they are faking the love because there's
Mhm.
some studies or there's some research I find online. I don't totally believe that. I feel like people are trying to demonize those people because they are stating from a victim's point of view. So they're trying to like
Mhm.
really evilize those people to say they have no hearts, they don't feel emotions, and they are only doing the lump bombing because they're learning the techniques and trying to control you entirely. But I
Mhm.
do talk to some of my friends or like the people. I do believe they have some NPD traits. They may not be entirely the NPD like the really sick ones, but they have traits trying to control and trying to manipulate. But my discovery is that deep down they're so insecure and they're
Mhm.
so like not confident and they have so many fears and they simply cannot face the uncertainties. That's the most
Mhm.
scary thing for them because like if you talk to them and you say to them say like, hey, make a decision now, and you don't know what will be the result, and you will be taking the consequences no matter what. So that would be the scariest thing in the world for them because they cannot take these uncertainties. Because I think one of the needs for the NPD person is they always want to win and they always want to prove or to validate their own narcissist, which means they want to love themselves to believe they're perfect and they can win everything and they are the best at everything. So in this case, the love bombing stage, no matter
Mhm.
like what's the intention and what's the origin, like what's the motives, it's essentially an investment stage for them. They're making all
Mm.
those efforts and trying to invest you as a person like a
Mhm.
vampire so you can become their like blood supply later and they say like I'm the only one you need in your life, you don't need anyone else and you just need me
Right.
to be your life, right? So that's the first
Okay.
stage. And for the later stages, I'll be concise here. It's like after they feel like the investment works, they will start to collect the returns and interest and dividends. And you will see like they were using more techniques like the gaslighting, triangulations, trying to manipulate you and to control you to be like, oh my God, I don't really like your this idea. Maybe we can try another one. I'm trying to make you lose your own confidence. I want you to lose your self. I want you to lose your boundary entirely and you become a puppet that listens only to myself.
Do you have any examples where it is in like a professional setting? I mean, I think there's plenty of examples in a family slash
Yeah, yeah,
relationship,
yeah,
love, dating type of examples, but I think in a professional setting, it might be a little bit, at least for me, like it might be a little bit hard
yeah.
to imagine.
So I can give you one example for sure because there could be really obvious controlling person, but also because there's a type it's called covert. It means you are not really obvious in controlling. You're trying to play the victims to get all the empathies and attentions, and you achieve the same goals as well.
I'm just trying to put my foot in their shoes, and I'm just like, oh my God, I'm tired. Like
Yeah, like
all this, all this
but
acting and all this. You know what I mean? I
yeah,
just
yeah.
don't maybe I just don't know how to do it, so maybe that's my problem.
It's just different. I would say it's just different personality and skill sets, right?
So
Yeah.
tell me about your professional setting.
Yeah. So give you an example in a professional setting. You start working with someone that's bossy and control, and that's a sign that
Mhm.
they could be MPD person because they naturally want all the attentions as a leader. They want to be the one on the spotlight.
But isn't that their job as, like, a leader and manager? They have to lead, they have to
Yeah,
have those type of traits, right? So, like,
I
how do you distinguish between those 2 things?
exactly. So I'm not against it at all. I feel like as a leader, you have to be like this and you want to show the leadership, you want to make decisions and leading people. But if you start to
Mhm.
spot the differences, they are facing different people and they are
Okay.
telling different stories of the one thing and they don't have consistency in their storytelling. That's a good sign of telling you that they are manipulators in the nature. Because what NPD person is trying to do is they don't care about the truth. They don't care about the black and white. They don't care about like, if water is wet and grass is green, whatever. They don't care about those facts. They just care
Okay.
what would be the impacts of recognizing those facts or the stories. And essentially, they're only self serving because they want to make sure their interest is not hurt.
So, like, their image and, like, how they would be perceived by another manager or how they
Yeah,
would be perceived by a different colleague or something like that. So, like, they would be able to twist the story or the
yeah,
words or the scenario
exactly.
from person A versus person B would be a different thing.
Yeah. So, I mean, like, if you are smarter, because like we're talking about like low level and high level MPDs. If you're high level MPDs, they can be the perfect actors and they can like try to align all the stories and to make the best political schemes like you see in the House of Cards. But in the world, we often see those low level NPDs in the career setting. They're just trying to twist the facts and trying to get or their own benefits. And when people start to chat privately and to discuss what's the truth, and everyone just realize they receive a different version of the story, and the only purpose is to make sure that the leader or the person have the authority over the things on the decision making and everything.
So you heard it here first. Level up your storytelling if you're a narcissist, so then you can not be a low level narcissist. That was funny.
I do believe, let me put it this way, I do believe a healthy portion of the successful people we have in this world right now are NPD people. I need to put it.
Absolutely.
Think about it. NPD people is so self-focused and they are so sensitive on like gaining things. Because remember, like the mission of their life is trying to gain as much energy and resources as possible from other people. So they care so much about themselves and they will see losing the energy or giving as a form of loss. So it's very unlike how we perceive love. We feel like if we give love to another person, you get love back, right? So this doubling the love and supports, you're spreading your love, you're not losing anything. But for them, if they're showing love, like they're in the loving bombing stage, they're actually losing things. So with this sort of mentality and the calculation they have in their mind, it's very easy for them to accumulate the resources and trying to get up and get higher easily because that's all the calculation they're making and to make sure they're in the best spot they can find. So to finish the Korea story here, if you see some people being like absolute respecting their upper levels, they never say anything against their leader, they're always pleasing the leader, and it's pretty much guaranteed they are MPD, and at the same time they will be very harsh on their lowers. Like how nice you be to your uppers will translate to how harsh you will be dealing your own employees or your lower parties.
For some reason, my mind just kind of went to, so in China, when you want to climb ranks in the
Yeah,
militaries,
yeah,
you need to have, like, in Chinese where you have to like brush the shoes. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
yeah, right. You
yeah,
have to
yeah,
do
yeah, yeah,
that
yeah.
to basically say the right things to your higher ups to in hopes that you will get on the good books of those people, so that you can potentially be promoted in the future and stuff like that and be recognized. Is that relatively similar in those type of characteristics, or is that more of a
Yeah.
cultural practice
I will not.
comparatively?
I think that's a great point. I will not say it's a cultural. I mean, I do believe Eastern culture because we are living in such a hierarchy society. So I feel like all the
Mhm.
society is a ladder in the end. I feel
Yep.
like there's a lower hierarchy, lower, like class, and we're climbing from low to high. It's
Similar
definitely
to a corporate ladder.
exactly.
Similar
So
to a corporate ladder, yeah.
so I would say the MPD person are the perfect people that design for the
Mm,
corporate ladder or any ranking system. Because
mm,
first, as I'm saying, like they are seeking
yeah.
for a constant supply of admiration that fuels their narcissists. And they can constantly get it from the ranking system from their lowers because they are like, I have this rank, so you have to respect me no matter what. And you are all like working for me, so I can fire you anytime and you will be my slaves in the end. So that's why you can
Mhm,
see all of the bullying in the Korea and all the gaslighting in the Korea settings. It's based
mhm,
on that root. And second, they want certainties. They want absolute certainties. And that's another benefit those laddering system is providing to them. Because you can see like, oh, I'm now, assistant, then I can be a manager, then you can go up to be like, a VP and then and becoming a CEO, right? So that's a very clear and certain ladder they can have the goals and aim for. So that's another
mm.
thing they're looking for, the certainty. So I would say they are perfect in the corporate setting, but they will be terrible entrepreneurs because they cannot face risks and uncertainties.
I think it's a fair point. I think not everybody fits into the mold of if you're a narcissist, then you're probably more likely to be better in the corporate world, less likely to be better in the entrepreneurial world. But I think everybody is capable of everything in whatever capacity they might want to, whether it's professional, family, or friends or whatever. In those type of departments is
Mhm.
they are able to succeed that way. So I think everybody is capable of some traits of narcissistic traits, right?
Yeah,
Because I think in a certain degree, we need to be self serving.
yeah, I agree. I feel like everyone is capable of being narcissists. I can be narcissist at times. I realize I can be using some tricks from time to time to make sure that I accomplish my goals as I wished, as I planned. So I think, and
Yeah.
also, I really want to highlight here the narcissist is a natural human desires. Is a healthy composition and component of a healthy like personality or mentality or your character. So there's nothing
Yeah.
wrong with that. So we're saying about like narcissist personality disorder is that
Hmm.
they are so polarized or they're so like in a condition that
Yeah.
they are willing to sacrifice everything else just for the narcissist itself. So which means
Yeah.
like
Just
in order to please yourself, in order to make yourself to feel better, you are willing to give up all the other factors like the what's the truth, what's black and white, and what's the the honesty and what's the respect to other people.
or burn the world down. Like, who
And
cares?
yeah,
It's for my own
exactly.
benefit.
Like you're burning the word down just for your own interests. So that would be something we call a problem. That's we define as a disorder, right? But in the end, we all want to be loved. We all want to be respected. We all want to be heard. We all want to having people that validates our idea. We want to have people supporting our visions and our dreams. And those are very healthy and natural desires you have at that
Yeah.
point. So some of the study or some of the research I heard is saying that, oh my God, that this narcissist may be coming from some childhood like trauma you have. You are missing some attention at some times, or you are like putting too much pressure of expectations from your family members. It could be all the roots of those. Um, but I'm just trying to say here is that it's all a spectrum, as you mentioned, Jaden. It's nothing about like a black and white definition
Yeah.
regarding how
Hmm.
you put people in the labels and in the labels and trying to say, oh my God, you're a bad person. Like you are this horrible, evil person, and nobody, you don't deserve love or anything. It's not the case. It's all about a spectrum, like how much is too much of being narcissist and how much should you respect people and will be willing to make adjustments to make good impacts on this world.
Yeah.
That's
100%. I think on the other side of things, though, like being a people pleasing person, when we come across someone that we potentially connect well with and find like a potential good partner or someone like a family or a professional, it doesn't really matter. Like, we just want to be able to get on someone's good side,
mhm,
right? But then that could potentially translate into someone being able to walk all over us and push our boundaries all over. And then we just don't have anywhere to stand.
mhm,
Maybe it is like the power, or maybe it's kind of trying to be on the same team as that person who has power and who is a higher up than you, and not trying to sweat the small stuff. It's probably just easier to get through those kind of days as a pleaser if your
mhm.
boundaries aren't being pushed too much, right? So
Yeah,
I think in that aspect, it's a little bit easier to navigate in a professional setting, but in a family setting, it's really, really hard
yeah,
to stabilize and be very grounded with those type of boundaries because they have some sort of power over you, in a certain way, but I think I'm not going to speak for most families,
Hmm.
but I believe most families are there for good intentions.
Ah, yeah, I agree.
But I'm still working for that. Like, I'm still working it myself
No, I
to
saw you heard.
understand and try to
I saw.
communicate.
I saw you said that's your friend's story.
My friend's story, yeah, so, like, it's just hard because being able to communicate these type of boundaries is kind of complicated, especially in ethnic families,
Hmm.
because they sacrifice a lot for you,
Yeah.
and so they expect a lot of stuff as well.
Hmm.
But for some reason, it is also in our blood to give back, you know? It's like a way for us to give thanks. It's a way for us to love, to provide the love that we once received, and it's
Hmm.
our turn to take care of them when they get old, right?
Hmm. I totally
Um,
agree. I feel like those
yeah.
sacrifices totally voluntary, and I do believe all those intentions are great. And essentially, everyone in this puzzle is wishing the best for the other parties, but we are causing some traumas or troubles because we are like, what's the animal? The animal with like the spikes on their back. You know what's the
Porcupine? Porcupine?
porcupine? Yeah,
A hedgehog?
porcupine. Yeah, yeah, like this. So we could be like in the Asian family setting. We could be all porcupines, but without we realizing that this sacrifice or the love that we are demanding from the other party is essentially are too much for other party to provide. We're just basically requesting other party to sacrifice without
Hmm.
asking for the permission in the first place. So we can be like the porcupines. We are cold. We are hugging each other. We're trying to get warmer. But as we get too close, we are hurting each other as a result, unintentionally. So I think that's the
Yeah.
reality for most of the Asian family settings because I feel like that's like the guilt trap without realizing is a guilt trap consciously.
Yeah. I think that kind of leads to the next point here because I think
Yeah.
a lot of us kind of put family into a very special box and a very special
Hmm.
area of being able to tolerate the amount of things that we want to be able to tolerate. Whether it's one person or the other person, it doesn't really matter who it is to tolerate. I think the foundation between the two people allows the toxic relationship to last a little bit longer compared to other relationships, such as friends and professional relationships, right? Because of we grew up with them, they took care of us and XYZ. But sometimes we need to be able to recognize like these are not even just too much. Like these are just not like a full stop, not okay.
Hmm.
For example, like it could be, I don't know, physical abuse, it could be
Hmm.
gambling your money away or something like that, or it could be
Yeah.
cheating, like those things. And
Yeah.
I think even when it comes to family, we tend to tolerate those things a little bit more. Like we can label that as toxic or whatever, but like f- we just need to sometimes be able to recognize that this type of pattern is kind of not okay, and what is it that you're able to do about it? That's a completely different story.
Hmm. Hmm.
But if you are in danger, please set yourself up
Yeah.
in a
It,
position to remove yourself from your situation, right?
yeah.
So Asian culture is very complicated in that way, or even just ethnic culture in general.
Yeah. I really want to echo your last point here. So if you feel like you
Mm,
are
mm.
in a really toxic relationship and you are constantly feeling like helpless, the situation is not getting better and it's impossible to communicate with the other parties to make things better, please help yourself and never believing these things will improve itself, and do not have this wishful thinking to believe that you need to suffer or you need to tolerate this whole thing. It's never healthy and it's never going to change probably. So please seek help. if you are in those situations.
So I think it's quite interesting on the rainbow sunshine of environments of how healthy people kind of handle conflicts differently from toxic people, because we've talked all day about what the relationship between people pleasers and toxic narcissistic people relationship work, right? But what about
Hmm.
like a healthy individual who can handle these conflicts a little bit differently? I think they're able to recognize signs, they're able to communicate their boundaries and not actually being very emotionally attached to what's happening,
Hmm.
and be able to understand and probably be able to provide some sort of common ground. And I think a lot of times they're able to try to distance themselves from these type of people, so they're able to just kind of remove away from the situation.
Hmm.
And I don't know, like
But
it's hard to
it's
be that
hard.
person to be healthy, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it's very hard because for many times, or for many situations when you're in a toxic relationship, but you will not really be realizing that's the case. So, for example, we just bring example from the career setting. If you feel like you are not having the best relationship with some of your colleagues or leaders or whatever, the first thing
Mhm.
is not you will realize that, oh, these people are not behaving healthy, right? You will not be like they're toxic. And if you, especially if you're a people pleaser, you will feel like, oh, I must be doing something wrong, right? I must be
Mhm.
messing something up. I must be delivering some low quality jobs, or I'm not trying my best to make things happen. I try to communicate, but maybe my communication is not clear enough so people don't understand what I'm talking about, or I must put in more efforts to try and make things happen or improve the situation. So those will be the situation people will be facing. In those situations, people will likely to realize later that, oh my god, I was in such a toxic relationship, and every responses I'm getting is a sense of gaslighting. It's a sense of like
Mhm.
emotional like manipulation and trying to make you lose confidence over time, to feel like, oh my god, I'm choosing, the bully just choosing like when to respond and when to not responding, and to make sure that you feel like the uncertainties, and you never feel like you have the right control of your surroundings. And in that case, they get to the point of like breaking up your personal boundaries and to get control of you.
We can do suggestions. I think for me, in if you're in a position of power and if you're in a position of someone who is able to make a change in your workplace environment or the relationship that you're in, I think you should do a little bit of reflection of how you're able to make that change yourself because you have the power, right? Like
Mhm. Yeah.
you want to be able to create an environment where people thrive and not an environment where people second guess themselves and just try to please other people, because that affects the quality of the work in general. So
Hmm.
if you are in a position of power, I think it's good for someone to kind of try to see if they could recognize any of these things in the workplace and try to make a change, potentially on like a one-on-one setting to get feedback,
Hmm.
or have a meeting as a group meeting and have team building exercises and try to just understand like your workplace environment a little bit better.
Hmm.
And I guess in like a relationship family issue, that's the extra hard part that I haven't figured out yet. But for me, it's just as you grow up, right? I think it's tend to start to have a different relationship with your parents, and you just need to be able to communicate with them in a different light. And you need to be able to show them that you have grown in a certain aspect, and for them to be able to recognize that you're able to communicate to them, but it's
Yeah.
very complicated because if you're not in a position to do that, Like if once you grow up, you should try to change the way you communicate with your parents because
Definitely, definitely. Yeah.
human being to human being, like they will always treat you as a child, which is fair enough, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, there's going to be times where they will rely on you
Yep, yep,
on certain aspects of life, you know, like
yeah.
please don't kick me to the, what do you call those, old folks homes, you know what I mean? They're
Yeah,
like, well, if you
yeah.
don't want me to kick you off to the old folks home, you better start listening to me. No, I'm kidding, but like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah.
I I really want to echo on that part. Power dynamics will change naturally when you grow up, and especially you're becoming like independent financially and you're making your own decisions.
That's a
So
huge one.
yeah, after you
Financial independence.
assembly your family, so even naturally transitioning from a dependent to a provider in a way, and also they will realize they're getting older. You are at your peak physically and mentally as well, and so the dynamic will naturally changes. I do realize some of the shifts of my own dynamics recently as well, as I'm been mentioning that the final purpose of a truly manipulative MPD people is trying to destroy boundary entirely,
And then fully allow them to,
take advantage
um
and control, dominance.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So if you keep a healthy boundary, you keep remind yourself you have your power deep down in your heart to believe in yourself. You are a capable person. You can make right decisions. You don't have to always have a master over you to tell you what to do. So those are the essentials to make sure you get the control back to yourself. Because unless you give up yourself, unless you choose to be helpless, like Stoic teaching would say, a man with power can destroy your body, but it can defeat you unless you want to defeat yourself.
I think the last part of the professional part of it, I was thinking, if you're not in a position of power and you're in this situation where you're in an unhealthy environment in a workplace, maybe you can shed some light on this, but like you can just quit. Find another job first
Mhm.
and then quit, right? Like
Yeah.
the company doesn't need you. You are very much
Replaceable.
you're very
Yeah.
replaceable. They can go torture another person
Yeah,
instead of
exactly.
you. Like let the other person, be the end all be all. But you can, at the end of the day, hopefully get yourself a good reference before you move. Try to get yourself a job first before you actually quit, so you can have a better transition.
I would put it in my advice to the person in the power, like what you did.
Mm,
So
okay.
my advice is that I know you have fear of losing your power. I know you have the doubts regarding how you can truly unite people and truly lead a group of people if you feel like you are not truly capable. You're trying to do like, I want to fake it until I make it. I want to make sure that I have the power to climb higher. But essentially, no one is stupid. No one is really foolish to not understanding you are trying to be manipulative and you're trying to be the only one on the spotlight to harness all the goodness in this place. So people have their reasons to stay, and that's not because of you. So my point is like, if you want to play this game in the long run and to not really creating the enemy constantly and turning those capable people against you, you will learn to be or faking to be more trusting and to be giving more supports and space to the people and to allow them to make their own decisions and to make a workplace a better place. And sometimes you need to learn, if you are backing off, it doesn't mean you are losing the authority. It means you are becoming a great leader. It's a sign of power instead of weakness.
Yeah.
And I know that deep in your heart, you have so many fears, uncertainties, but trying to break through this barrier or trying to level up to a higher NPD at least.
Level
You
up. It's kind of like one of the things that my mom has said to me is when you go to war, when you're a general, you need to have followers
Yeah,
and subordinates to go to war. You
exactly.
can't be a general by yourself and have no followers and go to war. So you need to be the general to have backup and reinforcements and all those people to be able to achieve your goals, right?
Mhm. And I want to spoke people like us, the people pleasers
Mhm.
ourselves. So
The people who have no power,
the
people
people
with no power
power
at
or
all.
I think that's the funny part of the equation because on one equation, the NPD people faking to make it, they tend to overestimate themselves. But on the other hand of the equation, for the people pleasers, we tend to underestimate ourselves. Am I doing this right? Am I making the right decisions? Am I have enough considerations to make sure that everyone involved will be happy? So we're thinking too much. We have too many doubts, and we are underestimating our value without understanding that this world is full of MBD people pretending to be capable. Essentially, if you want to achieve something, you can always find a way and you can always get power from that. It's a
Thank you
lot.
for sharing. I'm almost done my drink.
Yeah, I
I'm
understand as
buzzed.
well. Yeah.
Cheers. Last one.
Cheers.
Well, thank you so much for tuning in to Pondering Pandas. If you like this episode, please share it with your friends, leave us a comment, give us a good 5-star review. That would be much appreciated. This would really help us grow. Thank you for pondering with us again. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.